Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another great episode of the Sioux Empire Podcast. I am your host, Robert Mehling, and joining me as always is Natasha Estes.
I went first this time.
Seth Glover.
Oh, and I went second.
And Dustin Buri is third.
Third.
Oh.
Always a third. And also joining us is City Councilwoman Theresa Stehly. Welcome back.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Let's go ahead and jump right in. Our first segment today for this part is Seth's Sioux Empire Book Club. He's going to tell us all about an occurrence on the Owl Creek Bridge.
What's that sound? It's the sound of Seth's Sioux Empire Podcast bi-weekly book club. The books aren't about the Sioux Empire, but Seth reads them in the Sioux Empire.
As you can tell, Theresa, the cameras make everyone a little more animated, apparently. Go ahead. It's all yours, Seth.
Well, welcome readers to this week's edition of Seth's bi-weekly book club. This week, because Seth has continued the trend of really not getting in the swing of reading in 2018, he chose a short story from that classic Tales of Horror book that he purchased from a Costco play. It's Costco. But anyway, the story is An Occurrence at Owl Creek by Ambrose Bierce, who wrote...
An Occurrence on the Owl Creek Bridge. I'm surprised that's in a horror compilation, but...
I'm sorry, did I say on? An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge.
People get it confused, like I get it confused because they made a film of it and they changed it to on.
Oh, that's... okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know they made a film about it, but the story is fantastic. He's written a few stories. I know there's at least one in this book from him that I'll have to probably do an episode on. But... it starts out, I think I kind of want to read the first paragraph to you because it sort of sets the tone and, like, really grips you and, you know, makes you want to read it.
Fire away.
A man stood upon a railroad bridge in northern Alabama, looking down into the swift water 20 feet below. The man's hands were behind his back, the wrist bound with a cord. A rope closely encircled his neck. It was attached to a stout cross timber across his head, and the slack fell to the level of his knees. Some loose boards laid upon the ties supporting the rails of the railway supplied a footing for him and his executioners. Two private soldiers of the Federal Army, directed by a sergeant who in civil life may have been a deputy sheriff, narrator's insertion, so probably a prick, end of narrator's insertion. At a short remove upon the same temporary platform was an officer in the uniform of his rank, armed. He was a captain, a sentinel. At each end of the bridge stood with his rifle in the position known as support, that is to say, vertical in front of the left shoulder, the hammer resting on the forearm thrown straight across the chest, a formal and unnatural position, enforcing the erect carriage of the body. It did not appear to be the duty of these two men to know what was occurring at the center of the bridge. They merely blockaded the two ends of the foot planking that traversed it. So anyway, I mean, it was written, I think, in
1890.
1890. So it's kind of an old-timey story about something from the Civil War where basically this guy's getting hung for...
sabotaging railroad.
Right. But it's a fun story. Robert's read it. It's one of your favorites.
It's one of the quintessential, key, cornerstones of American literature. It's considered one of the grandmaster short stories in American literature.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it's excellent.
I think everyone should read it.
And there's so many stories in popular culture that have been, heavily influenced or just straight up, taken from the structure of this story. An outstanding read. But, Do you want to say anything else about the story, or you want me to talk a little bit about the history of it?
Yeah, talk about the history of it. I mean, read the story.
Let me put it this way. Are we spoiling it, or are we not spoiling it?
No, let's not spoil it, but let's kind of talk. I mean, there's a twist ending. That's what you need to know.
I read too slowly.
It is like the first twist ending, other than Turn of the Screw, in 1830 or whatever.
What's a twist ending?
What? Well, an unexpected ending.
Well, no, all right. Let me. When you're talking about spoiling, that means you're going to tell us what it's about.
Yeah.
This is
The
not-
exact twist, like the outcome of the twist, would be spoiling it, I think. But just by saying there's a twist isn't spoiling anything.
No. Okay, I get the twist part, just the
Spoiling
spoiling.
of-
And does this have any a fact to it, or is it totally fiction?
It's
It's a fictional story, but he was a veteran of the Civil War. He saw a lot of combat, and he based it a lot on his experiences. So a lot of his descriptions of stuff are very real.
Okay.
Similar to Jack London, where they're a writer shortly after the Civil War, and it influenced their writing. But no, I thought this was an interesting piece here. An occurrence is renowned for. This is from Wikipedia, and it, by the way, it was first originally published in the San Francisco Examiner in July 13th, 1890. First collected in Bierce's 1891 Tales of Soldiers and Civilians. Let's see. An occurrence was renowned for its irregular time sequence and twist ending. Bierce's narrative, discarding linear sequence and adopting the protagonist's inner experience, is an early employment of stream of consciousness, one of the first recorded. Calling it the greatest American short story, author Kurt Vonnegut added that it isn't even remotely political. It is a flawless example of American genius. And let's see, it's inspired a film, as well as there's an episode of The Twilight Zone that is this story, and it has been imitated thousands of times in popular culture. My favorite imitation of it was Scrubs. They had an episode called An Occurrence that had a twist just like it.
Oh, I think I saw that after reading the story, and I was like, oh, but and I was just looking through the this book, and it looks like there's 3 other stories by him that are in this book. So
this is the only story of his I know, but that's awesome because I'd love to learn more.
yeah, and by the way, listeners, is it October or what's going on here? No, it is February. It is February. I'm sorry for all the scary tales, but it's...
Well, this one's not scary. Well, it's kind of existentially scary.
Yeah.
Listen in archive and be like, oh, I'm gonna save this for the Halloween and stuff.
I mean, they're stories from classic tales of horror, so that's kind of...
Yeah.
But this is a great story, and another short read that's really...
Thought-provoking.
Thought-provoking and gratifying. It is gratifying.
Anything else, or you?
Yeah, I mean, I just
It's
love
tough.
the story.
I want to talk about it more,
say.
but it's just like we don't want to spoil it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of give you the first paragraph there. It's a guy who's kind of
About to get hung for sabotaging railroad.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna keep having to say hanged. It's hanged.
It's hanged.
Hanged.
Okay.
Unless I'm wrong, then it's not.
Okay.
Okay. And then it also kind of goes from stories or perspective to perspective. Like it goes from this guy's perspective, and then it fades out into another story. So it's fun.
Yeah, it's a non-linear story, and it's like I said, it's one of the first stream of consciousness stories ever written. Alrighty, you good to go?
Yeah, I think so. Theresa, are you going to read it?
Read the story?
Yeah.
I'm going to look into it.
Okay.
Okay.
I really should go down to the
my
courthouse.
interest on this.
Good. That's
Yes.
what the segment should be doing, so I'm glad.
And yes.
Good.
I like happy endings. Well, no,
This may not be the story for you. Oh, that gives
I'm very selective about what I watch.
Best
visual.
transition ever.
Really? Ooh.
No. I'm saying, well, yeah, there's a movie, but I mean, just read the story.
So, as you're all obviously aware, we are joined today by Councilwoman Theresa Stehly. Theresa, what do you want to jump into first? You're just fresh from legislative coffee. Do you want to talk about that, or you want to talk about city, or switch that around?
I would just talk about the legislative coffee. I was down there at the downtown Holiday Inn. We have several other coffees coming up on Saturdays during the session, and I posted some of the highlights from when I was there on Facebook. One of them right now that people can look at my Facebook page anytime, by the way, Theresa Stehly. I try to keep that current with city council issues and issues of the day, along with beautiful photos and things that are going to lift your spirit. Yes. So anyway, at the coffee, the thing that is getting the most traction right now is the question: should our legislators be drug tested?
Yes.
That's what's come up, and there seems to be the majority of people commenting on Facebook say, why not?
The last I'd heard, though, had been killed in committee most recently. We are recording this for reference, by the way, on February 3rd, in case that changed from here.
No, but it's coming back again in the Senate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's being resurrected. It got killed and it's back.
It's back.
Anybody else? That's slippery slope to welfare drug testing?
Well, I think it's almost kind of retaliation for them wanting to drug test and control everyone.
What's the worst thing that happens if you test someone?
Well, they don't get their benefits. But if we're talking,
I'm talking about the legislators.
Yeah, then they shouldn't be able. They should be, kicked out.
Technically, there wouldn't be any. The bill I saw, and maybe the Senate version's different, but it wouldn't have had any repercussions like that. It basically would just be disclosed that, hey, they tested positive.
Well, and are they testing? I don't know the details, but would that just be specific drugs they're looking for? Like if somebody's on a high blood pressure medication, which I take.
Oh yeah, they can distinguish.
Are they personal?
Yeah,
they wouldn't be having personal information about medical things.
No, I mean unless you guys get something where you can't be on steroids and somebody's taking a what looks like that, I think
cortisone.
Yeah, something like that, or
And even then,
I don't think that. I think it'd be only illegal substances, but I haven't read the bill, so I mean.
Yeah,
and as I was there, I was joined by some of the leaders of the Democratic Forum, and they leaned over and said, "Well, how about random testing for city council members?"
yeah.
And I said, "Well, that would be fine with me." And then someone made the comment that maybe they should be doing breathalyzer tests on the people in Pierre, because
I think that would be much more devastating to the folks in Pierre than drug testing.
But ingesting alcohol isn't illegal either. So
Nope.
If somebody wants to have a glass of wine or a beer, that's okay.
Or 30.
What if they show up in Blow Point too, and they drove?
We know Pierre. We know what goes down there.
That's reason.
Well, I don't know that. You're speaking.
I'm speaking for me, not for you.
Okay.
But
anyway, that was one of the things. And then the other one is, I think it's Senate Bill 80, which Senator Arthur Rush had brought this up. Bless his heart. It passed out of the Senate. It was in the Judiciary Committee, and then it went to the Senate floor on, I think, Thursday or Friday. It passed. That is a bill that's going to make it mandatory to reveal the terms of settlements. And it was inspired by this whole fiasco that we came across in Sioux Falls recently concerning the event center siding settlement. So it's been really gratifying to me to see our state listening to what's going on in Sioux Falls and trying to take action to make it more transparent and to solidify the citizens' right to know.
You got any feeling on how that bill's odds are looking? Does it have a lot of support?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But I heard the governor is supporting it.
That helps.
And it made out of the Senate. They were tweaking the wording, according to Senator Arthur Rush this last week, that what is being debated is who would be evaluating that information.
Okay.
And someone had mentioned maybe a city councilor could look at it. I don't particularly like that proposal. Someone said have a judge look at it. What parts of that settlement would be open to the public? But I think doing something to assure the people that this is what it's supposed to be would be better than what we have right now.
Sure.
The other issue that came out and that did die was an energy to give more notification on annexation issues. And if you followed what happened in Sioux Falls last year, the mayor wanted to he had targeted 61 parcels of land.
That's last year when you were here. That was going on, and I remember talking about that.
Right,
Well-
and so they were going to go after these people, and this became an issue after I'm going to call it his test case. One individual, Matt Metzger, who lived southeast of town, they were going after his property, and he wasn't notified. And I happened to notice he was on the agenda. I reached out to him, and he freaked out because he didn't realize that his property was on the
In the annexation.
in the
zone.
annexation grip.
Grip.
And because of that, we put the brakes on that, and then they formed a task force, which they were proclaiming was an innocent action, which I saw as a mechanism to help implement this annexation agenda. And so people got involved. Anyway, it ended up, at the end of the day, the whole effort, I think, had a great result because the planning department backed off, and they said a few things in legislative motion to protect people a little more. But the legislature got a hold of it and said, let's even make this more protective of citizens and have a thing in place that if they're even looking at your property and doing some kind of a study for annexation, you have to be notified. Which to me, doesn't that make sense?
Well, notified and then acknowledgement of that notification. Like there should be, the follow-up to that they received that and not that they sent them a letter to the wrong address.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah.
Because our, government likes to make clerical errors that screw people over.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So that was a bill that came up and got killed, and I didn't. Unbeknownst to me, our planning director Mike Cooper and the chair of the council Rick Kiley made a trip to Pierre on Tuesday to encourage them to kill this. And I said, well, it's too bad I didn't know about the trip. I could have ridden along, given my 2 cents on this, but no one told me they were. What?
Communication. It's fundamental.
Yes.
But
So that was another one. And so then there's also a bill coming out that is, I love, again, because of this parking ramp thing, which we didn't really talk about that whole evolution last time I was on.
Yeah.
Last summer, that's just...
It's evolved even more since.
But there's a bill coming around that's going to make it illegal to keep the investors in a private-public
I
partnership
saw that one.
secret.
Yeah.
So do you think it
Bravo.
will be vetoed if it passes?
No,
I have no idea how it's going to
Yeah.
be. But
I don't think it'll get vetoed. It'll just be if they get enough.
Support initially to
Yeah.
pass it?
And they've got projects over $500,000
Sure.
would be.
Maybe there's going to be a lot of
No,
100,000.
being the mustache twirly bad guy.
Oh, thought maybe I had a piece of hair.
No.
Poor Teresa, she's like, I'm not feeling anything.
So anyway, so that's coming around the bend. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's all good. I mean, we've sparked concerns, and people are listening. And
I'm concerned for the citizens, not the government's power and extending.
exactly, transparency, openness, and so
And consideration for your,
So I'm going home, and I've got the legislators that I'm going to be calling. I started calling them last Saturday just to advocate for the bills that I think are important. And again, it never hurts to reach out. I tell people all the time, if there's a concern you have about something coming around the bend in the city council or state legislature, call the people who are going to be voting on it.
It worked for me.
Yeah, well, and at the local and state level, our voice still does matter.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the federal level, it's a little bit more murky.
But yeah, and then that always drives me nuts because people pay less attention to the local, but it's like, but they have so much effect on your life, and you have so much more say
Exactly.
in it. If it's like, local government is really defined, I keep hammering it home, by the people who show up.
And speaking of showing up, That's why we're going to segue here into my newspapers that talk about a book report, Seth. Next time I'm on, I'm going to be quizzing you about everything in these. Okay.
All right. Well,
You get homework, Seth.
Yes.
I know how I am getting in the swing of reading. I'm going to start here. Start with the Stehly Report.
Yes.
Stehly Report.
Good. Well, you already got one, right?
Yeah, I have
Got
both
my-
of these at home.
They were mailed to you.
Yeah.
Bravo. I targeted. I had to cut it off somewhere because I did pay for these publications out of my own personal money, and let it be known that I have a humble lifestyle. I drive a car that's 14 years old. I don't go on any vacations. I'm very careful with my money. I don't make a lot of money. I don't spend a lot of money, but I use my money wisely,
I know.
Well,
and I help people. And so
have you ever looked into starting an LLC? I hear they could be
No.
wildly.
No, there's no LLC here. But anyway, so I, back in the years past, Phyllis Heineman she was my legislator for District 13, and she would send out a little report. Do you know who Phyllis is?
No, I don't.
She was in the legislature for several years. Nice woman, and she sent out a little report about what was going on in the legislature, which I thought was kind of neat. And Pam Nelson, my friend, who's our county treasurer, said she used to do the same thing. And because there are so many people in our community of over 180,000 people who don't get the paper, who don't catch any of the local news, and don't know what's going on, I thought, gee, I'm gonna do something and help people know the issues that are important to me. And so I did my first one in September. And I got 3 council members to write for it, a little note. And I think last time I was on, this hadn't come out yet. It was in the summer. I was planning it. But one of my concerns through these last 11 years of watching city government, one of my concerns has been that people are not aware of the issues that are coming up to be voted on. They don't know. After the fact, the media might have a splash about something passing. It's too late then for people to give their input. And whether you like the issue or don't like it, that's okay, but you need to know it's coming. Yes.
Lots of things that I have, well, maybe not lots of things, but I have noticed some people, when you say, do you want to sign this petition to get it on the ballot, people seem to think that means you're voting for it, when it just means, hey, I want to vote no, so it never comes up again, blah, 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 blah. It's like they're unaware that saying put it on the ballot isn't a yay vote. It's just can we vote on it, please?
Right. And Natasha, now you're going into another area of the legislature. I don't know if we want to go down that path. Do we want to go down a bunch of different roads here?
I'm all about different roads.
Well, if I could, I want to talk about. Okay, well, let's talk about what you just said, and because there are some bills being proposed by my friend Mark Mickelson, and also Jim Bolin out of Canton. There's this energy coming that, Mark, forgive me for saying this, but I think it's an assault on the democratic process. It's an assault on the citizenry, and it's coming out of the Republican essence in Pierre, and it's saying we're going to take your right to even have a petition on something away.
Boom.
Away. So one of the things that Mark is doing is he's got something happening that's going to limit outside money coming into to support ballot initiatives. They're upset about Marcy's Law, and that was funded from out-of-state money. We have out-of-state money coming in, I understand. But I said to him, why aren't you then working to limit out-of-state money that's going to be supporting political candidates?
Like Mark Mickelson, if you pull his campaign finance reports.
And I haven't looked at those. Does he? Oh.
Yeah, he's got some serious donors from out of state. I actually published an article last year about it because before he tried to pass anything, last year he'd been in the media commenting on it, how we needed to get all this out-of-state money out. So then I put out a little blog post that was like, here's his campaign, spending report, and here's his out-of-state donor that gave him, like, umpteen thousand.
Well, Christy Nome and John Thune, Mike Rounds, they're all getting hefty amounts of money from out of state.
Yes, they are.
So if it's good, if the ballot initiative is being under scrutiny, then let's have the candidates playing in the same rules.
And how on earth does he think that will stand up to any kind of challenge with Citizens United on the books?
You mean for the ballot part?
Yeah, for any of it. Citizens United, the Supreme Court ruled that money is speech. That was the precedent set by Citizens United. So any judge, immediately, if anybody challenges that in court, the state gets to pay a bunch of court costs, and they're going to throw that out because they're going to go, did you read Citizens United? Get out of here. Okay.
Well, and I'm not aware of what resistance it's going to move into.
Well, and it's kind of wasting time if that's what is going to happen. And, I mean, honestly, if there is legislation... Well, I know there's legislation that money is speech because Colbert did it and a story on it when it was happening. And it's bullshit and it's, But,
I don't agree with Citizens United, but it does protect people using money.
Because really, there's a lot of wasted effort when talking about it.
Okay, so then wasted effort, that's, again, part of the part of the process, you're going to waste effort here. I'd rather waste some effort, vet something out, than to...
It's like the old saying that dictatorships are very efficient,
Exactly. So another thing that they're doing is they're bringing out this legislation that's going to make it to get something passed for a constitutional amendment. It's going to, I think, raise the threshold to 60% from 55%.
Well, he's got a bill now because I did a whole political cartoon about it, so he knows how I feel. That makes it so that any amendment to the Constitution that comes from the voters from a ballot initiative has to be approved by the legislature. So basically the legislature has to sign off and go, well, you all voted on it, the majority of South Dakotans want this, but the state legislature has decreed that it is not worthy, and they'll just throw it out.
Well, and then there's another part that's going to say that citizens can't have an amendment, do any kind of petitioning.
Yeah.
It has to come from the legislature. And so I called him on Saturday, and just to be open on this, I called him. I said, Mark, it's becoming very difficult for me to defend you to my liberal friends. And I do like Mark, and Mark has listened to me in the past. So, and I love all people. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, independent, whatever. I'm here to represent all of us, to find what's going to work for the people of our city and our people of our state. But I think the Republicans are going down a path of, to me, arrogance, elitism, and we can do it, so we're going to do it, kind of a thing.
I feel like they're at war with the voters. I feel like this. Yes. I've been telling people this is a punitive legislative session where they are literally just like, okay, you passed that Marcy's law and this other thing we didn't like with the campaign finance reform, so we're going to punish the people of South Dakota for defying us. That's what this session feels like.
Well, and back when Mark and I were talking, I think it was 1972, is when they did open up the ability for the citizens to have an amendment on the ballot. Before that, we couldn't petition for that.
Yeah.
So there was, I guess, a flurry of openness happening in the 70s, and saying, and there had been a Democratic governor, Knipe was in, and so they were trying to open things up. And unfortunately, I'm finding out when people utilize their rights, sometimes the powers that be don't like it.
It used to be that state legislatures elected senators. The people didn't directly vote for U.S. senators. Are we going to go back to that? We're going to go back to the 20s and do that?
I'm
done.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, everyone's doing selfies and this.
Okay. So exactly. I'm about keeping the people as part of the process, and having led 2 petition drives in Sioux Falls, I can tell you that we can't always trust what our elected officials are doing. So we have this wonderful thing in place, checks and balances. that we need to preserve and protect.
And Theresa, you can speak to this as someone who has gathered a lot of signatures.
Yes.
Them making it harder, or like raising the threshold of number of signatures you have to get, I mean, what they're doing, I feel like, and I don't know what your opinion is, I'm guessing, the idea that you're raising that threshold pretty much guarantees that only the big money interests will be able to have paid people out there collecting signatures and get something done. It's really taking it out of any citizen's hands.
Exactly.
Which is supposedly the exact opposite of what he wants, but there we are.
Well, and money is power. I got elected without any money. And because of that, I mean, they're even with the local level, they're trying to come up with ways to make sure that people like me don't get elected again.
She did it without a deal.
Yeah.
A rap reference. Anyway, go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, that's true. I'm not beholden to anyone. And
Yeah.
I just a shout out to my colleague Pat Starr, who, if you've been following him, I mean, wow. He has solidified into an independent thinker, a man of courage. He's taken steps that have been just amazing to me. We need more people like him in our government.
Yeah, he's changed a lot from what I expected when I first met him when he was just running to how he's, and I think maybe part of it is just, he's a very reasonable, rational person.
Yes.
And he's just kind of calling it like he sees it and being like, wait a minute, on the outside he's like, maybe I would have supported this, but now that I'm seeing everything, I'm like, hold the phone, why are we doing it this way?
Exactly.
That's kind of the reaction I'm getting from him.
And unfortunately, we're getting pushback from our more seasoned colleagues on the council, that because we're coming in here and kind of breaking it apart and saying we're not going to do business like this anymore. And I'm just hoping.
But Theresa, don't you feel bad that you didn't win with 50% of the vote? I mean, doesn't that keep you up at night? So I'm sorry, everyone. I'm being a little glib and making a reference to a really terrible argument that some of Theresa's opponents used to. Well, you could describe it better than me, Theresa.
Out of the dark of night, several months ago, I get a call from Councillor Rex Ralphing saying that they're going to be proposing an ordinance that's going to change the amount of votes you need to get on the council.
Keep in mind, they're doing this like in the midst of the election year, so they're literally changing the rules as people are declaring they're running for office.
Yes.
They're like moving the goalposts around.
So, and Rex said he got elected, I think, with 30-some% his first time, and he said
Just kept him up at night.
He said, he never really felt like he was elected. It really
Haunted him.
And then Michelle Erpenbach, when she ran, she got 48%. It was against me. I ran against her 6 years ago. And she got, 8 years ago, she got 48% of the vote. That just always bothered her too. And I'm thinking, why didn't you bring this up right after that election?
Like 6 years ago or whatever,
To change the threshold to make it harder to get elected and to push us into more runoffs. Which we're going to see. Now, we're going to see runoffs in this next election.
And boy, we love paying for them, don't we?
$80,000 for those runoffs. Plus the candidates, then you're thrust into another 2 or 3 weeks of campaigning.
Another action that makes sure that only the wealthy can do it.
Exactly. They'll be pouring money into their candidate and helping them put out mailings, watch for some TV ads to show up, radio, whatever. They understand. Yes, Natasha.
Can we take bets on the runoff elections and then have those not be charged as some kind of illegal campaign funds if you throw it and bet against and all kinds of fun stuff?
Gambling against elections in the United States is illegal. It's very illegal.
It's gambling.
Oh, if we hide it.
Yeah.
Now that we've recorded this, both audio and video.
Under the table, though.
You can still do it.
It's going to be like a speakeasy, but,
for idiots who do it online in public. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Theresa.
Okay, so all right, Natasha. I'm not sure where that one goes.
It goes in my back pocket along with all of the campaign funds.
Well played, Natasha.
But anyway, it's when is this airing?
2 weeks or a week from now.
Well,
Yeah, a week from
so
now.
just to let people know, if you're thinking of running, you have until January 23rd to get your signatures and get on the ballot. So we got the
January 23rd?
Excuse me, February 23rd.
Okay, thank you.
February 23rd. So we have a mayor's race. If you want to jump in for mayor, you can. You need 200 signatures by February 23rd.
Oh, that's not bad.
If you want to run for one of the at-large positions, there's 2 of those up. 200 signatures needed. I always say get at least 100 more.
Yep, because they'll throw out so many for whatever.
Then we have the Central District and the Southeast District up. And for those, you only need 50 signatures. So that's... And right now, Rick Kiley in the Southeast District is... there's been no challengers coming forward. So if
Isn't that crazy?
I don't get that. I'm trying to encourage people to run.
I'm just going to set up a tent and go live out there for a week. And,
Well,
no.
and I'm not going to say anything against Rick, but I think it's good to have competition. And then Rick will be forced into a runoff that he so adamantly supported that we...
You don't necessarily have to live somewhere to represent it. That was a story that we skipped last week, but apparently there's some representative here in South Dakota that has lived in...
Oh, yeah. Well, that's alleged.
Sorry,
Yeah,
that's another thing.
I don't know anything about that, but anyway, so where are we going here? Let's come back to the paper, to the paper, and the thing that was so neat. My first one came out in September, and people. I put down here things coming up. Problematic mixed-use parking ramp proposal. I'm alerting the citizens that this is coming. We talked about. I told people about the police union and I named the names of who voted to support giving them their minute pay raise versus who said we need to teach these police officers a lesson and don't give them the pay raise everyone else was getting.
Yeah, we talked about that a bunch the last time. That was crappy.
Then
Yeah,
I
for
was
everyone-
also talking about the Lloyd Company got a TIF, a tax break.
Yep.
Of $4.3 million. That thing passed. We heard from citizens saying, "What are you doing? We don't support this." I mean, throughout these last several months, we've been hearing from people who are not wanting us to pass this legislation, and they're passing it anyway. So,
Well, don't you feel like kind of Huther and his, let's say, block of people are... They know their time is short, so they're kind of like trying to get as much in as they can.
I guess that is what's happening.
In case the mayoral election doesn't go the way they hope.
Well, and I heard the mayor was on Greg Belfridge this last week, and then I also got some validation on that he's got 35 to 40 projects that he's going to be proposing in the last 3 months. So who knows what's coming around the bend? I don't know. But Pat Starr and I especially, Greg Neitzer he's been coming around to reason. But we've been spending a lot of time just trying to protect the taxpayers and the citizens and just batting these things down. I feel like we're hitting flies with the fly swatter. They just keep coming. And I can say it from the depth of my heart, every vote I've made has been with the citizens in mind and trying to protect them. So anyway, I had that first one, and then I mailed out another newsletter 2 weeks ago. And in that one, I have I got Tom Walsh to write a little article.
I saw that.
Wasn't that nice? I mean, he was at the golf course meeting. That was a huge issue. On so many levels, it was problematic. I got Todd Epp, who's the news director at Keller News. He wrote a thing, people thought that was excellent. Government is not a business. And that's going in contrast to our Huther's constant mantra of government is a business. He's running it like a business. And Mr. Huther, you have been doing it, but you've been running it like your First Premier bank card business, which is encouraging people to get credit cards at these astronomical rates of interest.
I thought that was Stanford. Sanford's business.
No, well, it's
They both
together.
were involved.
Yeah.
It.
Well,
Yeah.
Mike.
Yes. So his model of business would be different than mine, and I think whoever the next mayor is needs, and they're all listening. You know, they're all sensitive to what's being said. But I think we need to create a department of customer service at City Hall where people can be calling in and saying what their concerns are and be listened to. Right now, I'm getting just a barrage of calls from people who have been discarded by the city, and they're coming to me because they think they want my advocacy to stand up for them. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a department that you could call and you would really be heard?
That's
kind of
wonderful idea.
related to this. And by the way, I hadn't seen the second one, and I am blown away by how many people you got to write columns in here.
Oh, you didn't see my
Because I don't get these in the mail.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, I'm not a good enough voter, even though I vote every time. No, I'm just teasing you. But
I got Patrick Lally, the former head of the Argos Leader. He's now the talk show on KSOO.
Yeah.
Written.
Kermit Staggers is in here.
Kermit's in here. Gary Hansen, our former mayor of the PUC,
Yeah.
wrote a thing about people getting a rebate on their utility costs. These are all things I think would be of interest to the citizens.
A Minnehaha County Sheriff. You got Mike in here? Okay.
Mike wrote about this. I got Pam Nelson wrote about the tax relief for property freeze for elderly. And after this came out, she got 15 calls of people who wanted to apply for that.
Wow.
Because they had gotten it in my newsletter.
Nice.
Joe Sneedy, Argus Leader, he's been on here. He did an interview with me about the siding. And what people need to know is that the Argus Leader footed the bill for that lawsuit, which is very expensive. John Arneson is their attorney. He's a fabulous attorney. John Arneson, I would love to see him as a city attorney sometime. That guy, he's brilliant. And he's humble. And the problem with attorneys in Sioux Falls is that they're all tied to city business. So, and this same thing with businessmen. I get calls from people telling me things. And I say, why don't you come forward and say this? Oh, Theresa, I can't because my business would be in jeopardy. So everybody's worried about the bottom line of making a profit, and nobody's willing to stand up for the people. It's been kind of disheartening. We need some heroes to come forth, and we need some attorneys to come forth and say, hey, we don't like how Sioux Falls is doing business here. But anyway, the Argus, I have him in here. I got several county commissioners to write for this, and I have had people calling me, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've read it from front to back, and it's been so informational. So I'm happy to help with that. And I'm hoping at some point we can get a paper in Sioux Falls, maybe once a week. These little small towns around South Dakota, they have daily papers, or
weekly.
Yeah, well, the Madison paper, they put it out 5 days a week.
Wow.
And I think they charge like $8 a month. My Argus subscription just went up to $42 a month.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
42, and then I had someone tell me theirs went up to 50, and then someone else said it's up to $60 a month. And people are canceling their subscription, and I love the Argus reporters. They are doing a fabulous job. We need a paper.
Yeah.
But there's something going on with Gannett that they are just trying to annihilate our paper
I think
presence.
just not enough people are buying it is the thing.
Well, but if you're paying, people are. I just talked to a lady.
People are hungry for this information, this news. I mean, look at how much just news, podcasts and blogs, not to toot my own horn, have grown in the last 4 years. And I think their online site, especially when the paywall's not a problem, gets a lot of traffic. It's just the delivery method, and then Gannett just looking at us as like a satellite property to be like exploited and then burned out.
I said to Randall back years ago, he was the head of the Argus, and that was back when people were starting to fall off. I mean, people I knew, and older people who, by the way, a lot of the older people in our community are the ones with the cash behind them.
Yeah.
They're solid financially, and they're your readers. But they were telling me, we're discontinuing the paper because there's nothing in it for us. That cost wasn't a factor at that time. So I said to Randall Beck, and I've said to Corey Meyer, I've said, you need to get a list of your former subscribers, get a great rate, and you go out door to door, knock on their door, and say, hey, we want you back. What do you want to see in your daily paper? Because to me it makes more sense if you can get 1,000 people subscribing at, let's say $25 a month. Isn't that better than having 50 people at $60 a month?
I have heard that that's a bit better business model, yes.
Yeah.
So Randall Beck, when I said this to him, what he started doing is putting people in the lobbies of Lewis Drug, Sunshine grocery stores at a card table handing out free papers. Do you remember that? Did you ever?
I do. Yep.
And so he was doing that, and then I said, Randall, why don't you start, when you're handing people a paper, ask them why they don't get the paper. Get that feedback, negative as it may be, and incorporate that into customer service. He didn't listen to me on that, so they just kept handing people papers, free papers, and their subscribership has continued to decline. So I go to Aberdeen. I have family there. I love Aberdeen. And their Aberdeen paper, I think, is great. It's got a lot of stuff in it.
If you can read it or access it in any way.
What do you... I mean...
When I lived in Aberdeen, I got a newspaper subscription, and I was, once again, just like here, I was in an apartment building, so I think I got my paper, 1 out of 5 days a week. I'd actually get to see my paper.
Really?
And then their online paywall is really nasty, where you can't even preview an article without going through their paywall. And so eventually I just lost interest and tuned it out. And you know me, I'm very want to be plugged in, want to know what's going on, but their whole model just locked me out.
But did you like the paper when you got it?
It was okay.
It had, to me, there's things in there that are more community oriented.
Sure.
I mean, you got to find out what is the public.
I had a very narrow window of when I actually read it before I dropped it because I wasn't getting my paper, and then was locked out by the paywall. So.
Well, and I can't a paywall. What's wrong with that? I mean, should people be able to just get on there and read online stuff and not pay for it?
Yeah.
That's the internet.
Well, Joe
There's no changing that.
Sneevy made a great comment in my paper here. I mean, and he said to me, Theresa, we paid to bring this lawsuit out. That's not cheap.
No.
And so they paid for it, and of course all the TV stations benefited from this. This thing, but the Argos paid for it. They've got to pay their employees. So if people are just getting information free, who's paying for these reporters?
Right, but if they made it more affordable, if you're charging me $42 a month, no.
Exactly. Yeah, or $60 a month.
Sounds like it'd be cheaper to go to the store every day, pay 50 cents or $1.50 on the weekends, something like that, right?
Well, it's $1.50, I think, during the day.
Oh, is it
during the week time? Yes.
Yeah, it's $1.50 for the daily, and then I think it's $3 or something for the Sunday.
And if they were taking into account customer service, then that's just bad business.
Well, and their customer service people are down south someplace, some state,
and they're terrible.
People are on hold for an hour.
I love the reporters at Argos. Yes. Love them. Their customer service center, when you call in, is so awful.
Yeah, if I have to talk to somebody with a southern accent, screw that shit.
Well, and one lady, she's a piano student of mine, she said she's called. They said, we're going to give you, they weren't delivering it. We'll give you a month free. Okay, great. Doesn't show up. She's called. And finally she sent me an email, and I forwarded it to Corey Myers. And finally, after all of this effort to try to get the paper, they're finally delivering it. But that's something that could easily be taken care of. I do want to say I met with Kay Leschner. He owns the Shopping News a few years ago, and I said, Kay, why don't you implement a weekly paper with your Shopping News paper? He's got a successful model. You don't like the Shopping News?
I don't like Mr. K.
Oh, okay. Well, but he's a successful businessman. I think he's got 80,000 subscribers. Not subscribers. They just dropped that Shopping News off.
Special K? Ketamine? Sorry, guys. Sorry.
I know.
I wasn't. Yeah.
But
sorry.
he's already got the delivery people in place. I just think it's a prime environment for somebody with a little cash and a business model. They could put something out. And I think people would buy it here in ours.
Yeah, you'd need to. Not that I've thought about it or anything.
A lot of takers to delve into the print media industry.
Well, hear me out here.
All right.
There has been a trend among some tech entrepreneurs to go into a city like Sioux Falls or even like New York, and what they do is, and this is a concept I've thought about for the Sioux Empire, with like make it modern, build it from the ground up, and make it lean. Mm-hmm. Part of the problem with traditional newspapers, big ones like the Argos, is they have so many legacy costs, and they're big and the bureaucracy for them is bloated. And yeah, for a giant Gannett media company that's like all over North America, Sioux Falls might be an afterthought. Mm-hmm. But if you make a lean operation from the ground up like Patch kind of does, and then optimize it, it is feasible. And there are like tech entrepreneurs who have done that, who have started a small circulation paper for like new neighborhoods and cities, or like a city the size of Sioux Falls, and they've made a go of it. And those actually they buck the trend. They grow.
I heard the Minneapolis Tribune is doing well. The Star Tribune, they're profitable.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But I will tell you, I've had people approach me and say, well, we would buy an ad in your paper. I've had politicians say, we'd like to take out an ad.
I was going to ask you that after the show.
Oh, well, and I'm not, I've kept it pure. I've paid for the whole thing. So I'm not, once I start, as an elected official, if I start collecting money from people.
Yeah, I could see where that's.
So we did the ad for free?
But so I'm not going that route. But for somebody else, I'm just saying that this could be, I think there's a need for it, and our community deserves to know what's going on. So it's just disheartening when there's I think 17,000 people who get the Argos Leader Daily, and 30,000 who get the Thursday Sunday edition. You can get a special package Thursday Sunday. Well, I've got friends who get that Thursday. It's cheaper, but they don't know what the heck's going on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
And then the Argus will counter and say, well, they can get the online version. But a lot of these older people, they aren't going there to look online. And I've had several people this week who liked my paper. They say, we like a paper in our hands. They like to read the paper.
I like smelling the newspaper.
Yeah. So I think there's
old one.
I think there's an avenue for somebody that would want to help our community and make an investment.
That's the key thing. It's like, are you liquid enough to do that? But
well, and then you could have advertisers in it too.
Right.
Once a week, how would that look? I've heard speculation the Argus might be going to, a few times a week publication. Then how do you hit the big headlines? Well, if nobody's getting the paper, it doesn't matter anyway.
That's true. Man, I can't imagine them, it would make sense probably business-wise, but because then they break the big news on their website, because that's what they push as the online subscription. But like you said, the older people are going to find out on it. Basically, what's going to happen is the older people will find out about it when it gets scalped by Kellerland or somebody, and they throw it on TV before they get their paper.
Well, if I'll say this. When I ran for city council, I talked with the mayor of Aberdeen, Mickelson, and he said to me, Theresa, I always help the media understand the issues. And I have found I've been doing that as a city council person. I will call the stations and say, this is coming up. And sometimes they don't know about it.
Yeah.
And these young reporters, we've got some great reporters, but they don't always understand the issues either. So if you're just leaving it up to them to kind of stumble on it and maybe go to the meeting and catch something just at the surface level, it's not always going to be letting the people know what's going on. So I'm always injecting information and trying to help connect the dots. And I do that with Facebook. And once I'm out of office, I'm going to continue to do that. Wherever I go, I'm going to be encouraging people to participate, to be educated, to give their input, because that's our country. and men died so that we have these rights in our country, and if we don't utilize those, we're going to lose them.
Amen.
One little step at a time. And so I'm about preserving that. And I think in our city of Sioux Falls, let me talk about public input. And I ran, one of the reasons I got involved is because I had heard they were going to try to get rid of this public input segment.
And now there's more talk like that. Or moving
I heard
or...
talk, that the mayoral candidates now are talking about getting rid of that or shoving it to the end of the meeting. And then what they do is they put it at the end and then they adjourn. And so it's like, too bad.
You know what?
You could talk
I
to an
bet
empty
the
room.
goose would not do that. Goose.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting. The Daily Headliner. Do you know him? Adam?
Yes,
Yeah, he was. We had an episode with him last week.
Oh yeah, where did he come from?
I don't know, but he's awesome.
Oh
Hilarious.
yeah, I've been sharing. I by the way, Adam, I can only share your stuff if it doesn't have profanity in it.
Right.
I don't know.
You have
Well,
the
I don't
funniest comments when you share that because they're like naive people that believe that. I've seen the comments. There are people that believe that.
Yeah,
Like just.
But
it's part of the fun.
It is. It is.
Oh yeah, he's. I love to sing on trains.
Exactly.
That was. He gets it. It's great. And also Scott Erisman, if you want, he's got some. He put up what he thinks the mayor's final acts are going to be, and one of them he has is that he'll make a proclamation that Councilor Starr and Stehly can't participate in the meetings anymore because we never get our things never pass anyway. He's got the votes to make it happen. But anyway, we were talking about the blogs. And where were we at there?
Public input.
Oh,
Yeah,
public input. Yes. So I'm the one sitting there. People tune in. By the way, we have more people watching City Council than ever before. I got people coming up to me. Oh, we're watching the meetings. Bravo, Channel 16 on Tuesday nights. But we have a lot of people at public input. Sometimes we have the same people. People say things you might like. They say things you don't like. So what? You can't start legislating the quality of their speech.
I'm offended.
That what?
People think differently.
She's parodying people. They're like, I'm offended. I don't want them to talk.
Exactly. Well, and I have a quote here in my little paper. Did you see that from Greg Belfridge? He told me I could use it. Greg Belfridge, he's been a strong supporter of the mayor's. But after this event center settlement thing came out, Greg's starting to kind of question things a little bit. But he was, after we had that parking ramp that we brought forth, Councilor Starr and I brought forth an attempt to repeal the funding for that parking ramp. This is the craziest thing. I can't believe this thing is even out of the gate. Anyway, we had a meeting and the mayor's trying to shut people down from giving public input, and Greg Belfridge comments on this whole attitude by some council members and the mayor, and he says the attitude is, we know better than you do, sit down and shut up.
I heard someone was trying to limit what types of businesses can be put in that parking ramp. I heard that
that
no
is out
tattoo
there.
shops are allowed.
Yeah, that
that's
happens.
out there, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That's out there. No flea market types of things. I think, was it massage parlors?
Massage, flea markets,
Studios.
pool halls, bars. There was like 20 different businesses.
Unposh businesses.
Yeah, anything that doesn't look good.
But we're building this gold-plated parking ramp that is going to support this. Well, it is. I mean, 21
Wizard,
million.
that's the only thing that can go there.
What?
If it's gold, yeah, Wizard of Oz.
It's Emerald City though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's gold plated to it. And
It's
Golden Yellow
I'm
Brick
trying
Road.
to make a joke.
it's being. Well, I feel so sorry for people who park downtown because they are like the industry of the service industry workers parking downtown, and their rates are going to go sky high. Okay, for a leased parking spot, we're going to continue to see, and I will vote against this, by the way. Then we're going to continue to see our parking meters go up.
Yeah.
And right now, if you stay Minerva's too long for lunch, or you happen to be shopping, you come out, there's a $10 ticket on your car now.
Hey, do you want to hear a funny story?
What?
You remember when I went to that press conference at the library about you and Pat Starr?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, you
Yeah.
had a ticket.
Yeah, I got a fucking ticket because I didn't put enough in, and those douchebags were out there immediately after because of the mayor. Because of the mic, because I'm sure
you think
he sent them.
Well,
Just from talking to you, yeah.
the Argus.
There were two different ones, and they were going out, like, Seth and I were both just like, you think they're doing this because everyone was here for this press conference?
I got a ticket.
The Argus got a ticket.
Yeah, I think KDLT did, because they were parked next to me, and
That was
yeah.
so
I didn't
Easy
know.
pickings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were out there immediately, like, after it was over, they were done, pretty much.
I'm just lucky that I grossly overpaid for my spot.
See, I just...
Well, and that having the downtown library even have tickets, have parking meters is a discussion people are bringing.
Yeah,
It's a
that
library.
makes no sense.
But anyway, they're making. I confronted this parking department guy before I got elected about raising those rates, and he told me we need to be raising rates downtown to support the parking department. And I'm like, what? No, thank you. The mayor said to us when we got elected, counselors, never, and this was at the budget hearings, it's going to be videotaped somewhere, never miss an opportunity to raise fees and taxes and fines on the public. Make them pay for what they're getting. And so they have this mentality with the parking thing. It's the enterprise fund now. We're going to be raising rates, but I think people are going to get hurt at the end of the day to pay for this new parking ramp. We're going to be raising rates and again taking a gouge into the affordable living need that we have. Yes, Natasha.
Do they at least give out free Vaseline after all the raises?
Teresa doesn't get it.
No, I don't.
God, that's okay. Some people don't need to get all those jokes.
I'm not getting that one.
Wow.
Okay, anyway, so
it's okay.
But that parking ramp. So here's the deal: they raise the rates to support it, and then if that doesn't cover it, that $21 million gold-plated ramp, then they're going to dip into the second penny to cover the bond payment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Greg Neitzert's assuring me, that's not going to happen. I'm like, I'm coming back at. I'll remember who said this. When you start taking the second penny, supposed to be for streets, and using it to pay off that ramp, it was the wrong thing to do.
Just bring a ratchet set in a gold bag and you can get the parking for free.
I just
Do what?
walk.
A ratchet set in a gold bag and you can get the parking for free.
Yeah.
I'm not following that one.
And what begging?
A ratchet set in a gold bag and you can get the parking for free.
I just don't understand.
You ever see all the
term.
You
meters
put the
there?
gold bag over the parking meter so that it marks it as out of order
And then just
and just park there.
Yeah, somebody should do that at the library.
Could you put like a fake ticket on your windshield so they know you already got a ticket and then just don't give you a ticket?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, save your ticket if you ever get a ticket. Teresa's on with this con. I want to let you know. She
That is not a good idea. That is illegal.
Well, no,
Please don't do that.
It's not illegal to not take it off your windshield.
No, if you get a ticket and you don't pay that ticket, then you're going to be paying a whole
Can you
lot.
put a
Pay it.
movie theater
Pay it,
ticket?
but keep
it's a
the
real
ticket.
ticket.
I don't.
And keep
I
it
thought you
as
had
a
to put
ploy.
the ticket in with it when you paid
You can
it.
pay online.
Oh,
And then
okay.
you don't have to return the ticket,
Well.
and then you
Oh.
can keep it, and you can go do this con. Like, we're not telling you to do, but if you do it, remember where you got the
I want to put a religious track up
It's a
there.
life hack.
But they're on those little
Your ticket
vehicles.
to
What are those called? The things they do.
Vespas,
You get them
Fiats,
No, the
Italian-made cars.
Seth.
the parking people. They're using those. What are those-
Segways.
Segways.
And,
There you
and so
go.
it's like, let's make it as fast as possible, and so we can give as many tickets as we need to.
Yes, they are
I
all
Hey, we gotta pay for that
scurrying
gold-plated
around
parking ramp
on-
somehow.
scurrying around on mall.
Well, and so the other thing, I'm going to say this. But I've been on the council almost 2 years now, and I'm sorry to say that there are people with a lot of money running this community, and there are deals being made that are going to facilitate these people with a lot of money. And the general citizenry has nothing to do with this. And that is not right, in my opinion. And when you come to this parking ramp that is an investor, there's an investor tied with the citizens, and they won't tell us who they are and who the investors are. And I'm starting to get kind of a sense of these people are in this, they're making money on this city project, and these people are making money on this city project. And are the citizens, are we actually supporting the lifestyles of certain people in our community with tax dollars? Is that really what we want to do? So
No, but it's what the people in power want, right?
I'm concerned that that's what's happening.
I share those concerns, and I think there's fire there.
So we need to work for purity of the process, and look to the donor lists of some of these candidates to see who's really calling the shots.
Purity of the process in government, man. That's. But I mean, I love that idea, purity of the process.
I'm committed to purity of the process, and so
I like it. I can dig it.
I'm just hoping that I'm looking for fresh air on April 10th. Fresh air, getting more people in.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Any of those races or anything that's going on? Okay, just curious.
Any bets?
Hey,
No, I know that.
Natasha.
I've stayed. I am not helping. I've stayed neutral on these people. I've had council candidates calling me, and I've talked with them to a point. I haven't talked to any of the mayoral candidates.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Well, just because I don't want to be involved in that right now.
Sure.
I may have to work with any one of those people.
Yep.
And so
You don't want to you don't even want it to look like you're throwing in with someone and then you have to work with them.
I have not thrown in with anyone.
So,
Hey,
that makes sense.
I'm sorry, I should know this, but when's the next time that we vote on stuff?
She was just saying she was
April
looking
10th?
forward to fresh air.
Yeah. April
10th is
10th
new bills, but not just people.
No, April 10th
Yeah, I
is
get
just...
that.
Oh,
It's only
okay.
when stuff happen, I don't care about it. I mean, I'll vote.
You mean
but-
when there's a project we're going to vote on?
No, bills, weed.
The
particularly.
midterm elections will be in November.
November,
All right,
yes.
thank you. That's all. Damn, that's ways away. All right.
I know, the election seasons just get longer
Well,
and
and
longer.
also we got a city school board election coming up too.
Okay.
If anyone's interested in school board, you need, I think it's 20 signatures for that. And the petitions have to be in by February 23rd. But we've got the school board. Todd Tolke was out there saying that, our school board's just fine the way it is. We got a cohesive thing going on. So
That doesn't sound shady at all.
we don't need any new people coming into the process. And
Wow.
again, school board handles a huge budget. I would encourage people to get involved, and I put it on Facebook. Pick up a petition if you want to run. But apathy, woo. When people don't get involved, then you get what you get.
Yeah.
Right?
Yikes.
Oxymoron, woo. Yeah. Or sorry.
The Sioux Empire Podcast proudly presents this week's Shameless Plugs.
So, Theresa, I believe you remember this ritual. This is the part where you can just plug something, I saw a show I really like, or there's a nonprofit I'm working with, or, if you were running for office, we'd be say your website or whatever. This is just,
You timed it.
what do you want to, you have anything you want to promote or bring attention to?
Well, I want to promote the city council meetings.
Okay, perfect.
Channel 16.
Yep.
Tuesday nights, I want to promote people watching what's happening. I want to promote people coming down to the meetings, coming forth and giving your input if there's something, being involved with our city council meetings.
Excellent. That's a perfect shameless plug. Dustin.
I'll do my website. It's just dustinburi.weebly.com.
Nice. Seth.
Well, I'd like to thank Theresa for coming back. Yeah, always informative and always, I like having you on because you are our inside source to a bunch of this stuff. And yeah, it's always awesome hearing from you. And then fancy desserts. 2 weeks ago, I made a chocolate souffle that was to die for. So not to toot my own horn, but then again, I did make a chocolate mousse before that sucked, and I just threw out. But anyway, so fancy desserts. Go get yourself baked and bake.
Okay. Natasha, what do you got?
Well, if you are not interested in baking anything and you really want to do something awesome for Valentine's Day, I would highly recommend Royal Table Massage Therapy's special uber great things that they have all the time. But if you would like to do it for Valentine's Day, I would recommend getting something like a Paris Couples. You get fancy cheesecake that you don't have to make. Plus, rose and for your sweetie, and you get to have a nice little massage with your sweetheart by awesomely trained, very professional massage therapists like me and all the people whom I work with. And it is a great way to just kind of be like, I can do something special without having to put in any effort, so that you're not a grouchy pants later in the day when you would like to do other things that have to do with Valentine's Day, and you're not too tired with.
Yeah, and even if it's not Valentine's Day, you can, just do a couples, if you forget to get a Valentine's Day treat for your Valentine.
That happens.
Yeah.
People, and it's always good to call, because sometimes there's cancellations if you're the person who's like, oh wait, it's Valentine's Day, I better do something, because I forgot, I'm too busy watching football or something dumb like that.
It's over by
Football will be over.
No, the thing is, if you want to book ahead, and you need to book ahead, because things fill up, you know what I'm talking about, and I have to tell you, because there's people who forget, and they're like, shit, I gotta do something. Why don't you do that?
Rob, shameless plugs.
My shameless plug this week is going to be voting. Voting. Get registered to vote. We are in the middle of a not voting time right now, so it's the perfect time to get your registration in, and they'll get it back to you right away. Make sure your stuff is all up to date, because we've got, big city election, city council election, and then in the fall we've got, you don't want to be last minute oh crap, because unfortunately we're not a state where you can same day register, so you need that 2 weeks or whatever at least. So for the love of Pete, register to vote, because honestly, we talked about a bunch of different societal problems in the first episode we recorded today. That was the one you heard last week with New Colossus, and we talked about a lot of political issues and problems and challenges that we face in today's episode. And I think that a lot of this stuff can be traced back to, Theresa, what was the turnout in the last city election? 12%? Something like that?
Like that, yes.
Yeah, 12%. Come on, guys. These local elections have so much more say in your life than the ones you're going to turn out for, like president. So much more. The effect is profound. And these people are governing, and they're just gobbling up money and projects and things like that, and it's at your expense as a taxpayer, and you're not putting in any input about how it's being spent. So please register to vote, and then vote. That's my shameless plug for this week. Theresa, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody, and we will see you all next week.
Have a great week.
Yay. What the song?